So hey, we were talking about yesterday, you can use the 3-valve or 2-valve 3-hose test kits for the double check, right? You can do the multi-hose double check test. And then we went over this morning about the single hose and all that. So the multi-hose, it's a USC 10th edition RP test. You're just using that system on a double check. You usually get about the same readings as the single hose. And the big advantage is you don't have to shut off one, so it's a large. A lot of times what you end up doing is, say it's 10-inch, you might do the multi-hose just because like you don't want to shut the shutoffs and it's a little more particular. Whereas if it's like 1-inch, it's so easy to shut these that it's much easier to do. So you would just, a lot of times people default to the single hose. And there's also a single hose RP. But like we were saying in Massachusetts specifically, it's kind of frowned upon and most of the water purveyors don't accept it. Although I do know for a fact that some people do it here, the one hose, the ASSE. So anyway, we have the 3-hose, 2-valve version of the double check. You walk up, right? First step is, does anybody know? Notify, yeah, first step's notify, then you got 3 other steps. Notify, identify, inspect, observe. Then you want to flush the test cocks. So, right, we were talking about, for the RP, you got to flush them a certain way. For the double check, it doesn't matter. You should probably do 1, 2, 3, 4. If you did 4, 3, 2, 1, or just some random order, that's totally fine. Then you have the 3-hose test kit. Close your needle valves. Attach high hose to 2. Low hose to 3. For the double check, the bypass does have to be on the high side. For the RP, it doesn't matter since you loop them anyway. For the double check, you don't loop them, so it has to be on the high side. Open test cock 3, open low bleed. Open test cock 2, open high bleed. Get them running. Close your number 2 shut off. Close high, you have to close low second. 1.9, 2.0. That's your check 1 reading. Since you do a no flow test later, that is the reading, you do write that down. Then normally for the RP, you'd loop it. For the double check, you don't because you don't have anything to test. Attach your high hose to 4, open 4, reset your gauge, open high bleed. It's gonna drop a little. If it doesn't go to 0, that means check 2 is good against back pressure. Then you open and close low bleed again, drops down. That just resets everything. Then you're gonna do your, so now this segues directly into the no flow verification, which if you do other providers with the multi-hose double check, they always do a lot of weird stuff where you're like attaching here, attaching there, and then attaching back. For this, we did check 1, then the check 2 back pressure, then you can go right into the no flow, close test cock 2. If it doesn't drop, doesn't continuously drop, you're good to go. There's no flow through the valve. Some people are talking about, well, if you're gonna do a no flow, then why don't you just like leave this shut off open, right? Wasn't that, somebody in the back was saying that. And a lot of people talk about that, but the reason you can't do that is because like say this is closed, you reset your gauge. Now when you open high, you are directly mixing whatever fire sprinkler water and whatever domestic water, and it's just directly open, wide open. And there could have been back pressure on the valve. There could be a back siphonage event at this exact time. And then all of a sudden you suck all the fire sprinkler water and then it's way too much. And you know, domestic water could take like a tiny bit of fire sprinkler water, but not a whole lot. So some people say like, oh, well, if I shut this, I'm still getting some fire sprinkler water. And you sort of are, but not significant. Like this mixing isn't anywhere near as bad. It's like a back pressure event with this wide open. So that's why you need to shut them. Of course, when you get out in the field, some people don't shut them and then, you know, you can't control everything, right? So when you open, high bleed, close number 2 test cock, no flow is verified, close the other test cocks, remove this bypass hose, and switch these over. I guess theoretically you could remove everything and then put everything back on. I typically just move them over. open low, or open test cock 4, open low, open test, close high bleed is on your sheets there. I did confirm that. Then you open high, close low. Now you get your check 2 reading, 2.1. So what did we get? 1.9 and 2.1, right? Close your test cocks, remove equipment, you're good to go. Open shut off 2. Now we'll go over the single hose, right? So how many steps was that? Does anybody have to? 40. Okay, now everybody grab your single hose sheets. It's got RP on one side and double check on the other. Looks like this. How many tests are that? Oh, some of that. I think some of those tests are simpler though. It goes a lot faster. So 33 instead of 40. That's not a great. I guess it's kind of similar. It's a little shorter, right? What is that? 20% shorter? Right? So same deal. You walk up. What is your first step? Notify, identify, inspect, observe. Flush your test cocks. Bleed off T. This is in case you have a leaky shutoff inlet shutoff. Short clear hose to test the shutoff valve tightnesses. Attach your high hose.
It's the same test manifold, it's just less hoses, right?
Yes, the same. If you notice, the same exact test kit, serial 572 is the one we're using. So we should get the same numbers, right? So hook this up, high hose only. If you have a low hose connected, like some test kits, you can't disconnect them, which I think is really inconvenient. Somebody had a watch with
the TK9 on the table. I have one.
Am I blind?
It's right there.
Here? No, it's over there, yeah.
Yep.
Right, so like you just can't remove them. Also, they have their colors backwards.
Yeah,
right.
Color doesn't matter, guys.
Yeah, like high is blue, and it's like, what world is high blue? You know, anyway. But right, like if you did a refrigeration, what's the high? Yellow, right?
Red.
The high's red, and then the low is yellow, right? Are any of them yellow? I don't know. Anyway, these are just yellow jacket hoses. So if you have it where you can't take it out, you have to make it level when you're doing this. Because if it's going down, the reason is, so if this is full of water and hanging, your head pressure on your low side of your diaphragm is actually going to be like negative whatever. So then maybe the check leaks, but your gauge reads 1.2 because 33 feet of 0.433 times 3 is 1.3, right?
That is correct.
So 36 inches is 3 feet. Yeah, you would get 1.3 psi on your gauge exactly if you had 36 inches laying out, right? So that's why you do that. So what I recommend is take it all the way off, open test cock. So that's another thing. If you do a multi-hose and you open this, it will shoot water at you. So be careful with that. Into class. Open, close. Open and close test cock 3 to fill the tube. Close number 1, close number 2. So what did we get? 1.9? So I am getting 2.2 on that test. So it's a little close. Or no, the first one was 2. The first one was 2.1, right? And then the second was 1. So yeah, now it's saying 2.1. So very close. It's basically the same test. That's what I'm getting at. Whether you have 2 or 3 or whatever, or 1, it's usually you get the same number. It's just a directional flow test. Close both test cocks. Open shut off number 1. then I just move them over. If you look at the specs, it kind of says to take everything off and put it back on. Attach everything. Open test cock 3. Open and close. Open test cock 4. Another thing people screw up, if your finger is on this right here, it does screw up the test. What it look like is it never opens, or it like holds a much higher pressure, right? Or what does it do? Yeah. See how it's reading like 12? It's just because your finger's on it. So let's try that again. So make sure the low side when you're doing this, if it's disconnected, make sure your finger's on it, or your finger's not on it. So you close, yeah, you have to repressurize it every time. Yeah. On this, the big downside for this is you do have to shut both shutoffs, which if the shutoffs are huge, you would want to avoid. If it's 1 inch or 1.5 inches, it's probably not a big deal, right? Like you just kind of shut them. So you open test cock 4. I'm getting 2.0. I got 1.9 before, so. And then, yeah, notice if you bring it up, it does go down quite a bit. Why? Because of the head pressure. So those are the differences. I guess the big advantage of a single hose is, we should try to simulate. On the next one, check out our other videos. You can see, these are for testing, but as you can see, he's missing. These are the Backflow Brothers, or do you want to? This is the Backflow Brothers test rigs, and it looks like they're missing the needle valves randomly. So.
He took them. Now he's saying
I must have. Somebody must. Oh no, here's one.
Yeah, see,
oh,
look,
actually,
look,
shit.
he
No,
took
let's
them
do
out.
it then. Hold on. Stay tuned. You know, you thought the video was over, but
See, you just accused me
it's
and how
just
that
it
works.
never ends. You thought it was over. Oh, well, now I can open them. Right? See, now I found a piece, so I can now open them. Right? Yeah. So this way you can simulate. This is the big, another big disadvantage because you're shutting both shutoffs. Is a lot of times the shutoffs leak, right? And if you don't go over this in the classes or whatever, what happens is people see this and they weren't looking for it, and they just kind of like pass the valve anyway. So this is where we're at. I open test cock 4. Water just never stops running, right? So if you weren't told that this is bad, a lot of times they just go, oh shit, 2.4, all right, we're good, right? Trouble is, the check valve is open. So even if this check valve leaked, it would still read this because there's flow going through it, right? So you have to confirm this in no flow condition. So you open up your bleed off tee and you get it to where it's a slight drip. So you kind of like, it's still too much. Still too much. That's too much. There we go. See how it drips, stops. And then you gotta get like a tight little drip. That's too much. You get the idea. I kind of had it for a second. I think it's about to happen. You just want it to be able to drip a little bit, just like that. The reason you want it to be able to drip a tiny bit is because if you open this too far, then you just get a lower number. I think we're like almost to the max of the capability. If you can't get this to open enough for that to work, a lot of times you can just open up another test cock or something like that to facilitate it. But anyway, that would be the big disadvantage. So the big advantage of the multi-hose is you only have to shut one of the shutoffs, but there's like a lot more steps. The single hose, which is the official USC 10th edition, this is what they recommend you do in the field. The big disadvantage is you got to shut both of the shutoffs, but then if you have leaky shutoffs, there's always some kind of diagnostic. So make sure to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.